How did humans domesticate fire vs. animals? 2 million years ago, our ancestors stood at the edge of a forest. Lightning had just struck a tree. Fire spread across the ground in a way they'd never seen before. And instead of running away like every other animal on Earth, one human looked at those flames and thought, what if we could control that? That single moment changed everything. But here's what most people don't realize. Domesticating fire was fundamentally different from domesticating animals, and understanding why reveals something shocking about what makes us human. Let's start with the obvious. Domesticating animals seems easier, right? A wolf can be tamed, a horse can be bred, a dog can be trained to sit. These are living creatures that respond to reward and punishment. They adapt, they learn, they cooperate. So when our ancestors domesticated dogs around 15,000 years ago, it made sense. You feed an animal, the animal stays. Generation after generation, you breed the friendlier ones. Eventually, you've got a completely different creature. But fire? Fire doesn't eat. Fire doesn't cooperate. Fire doesn't breed to become friendlier. Fire is chaos incarnate, raw energy looking for fuel. And yet, somehow, humans tamed it anyway. Here's where the story gets interesting. The earliest evidence suggests that human ancestors were using fire around 2 to 3 million years ago. But, and this is crucial, they weren't making it yet. They were stealing it. They'd find fire created by lightning strikes or volcanic activity, and they'd carefully, desperately keep it alive. Imagine that task. Imagine standing around a pile of burning wood, knowing that if the fire goes out, you have to wait for lightning to strike again. This wasn't domestication yet. This was dependency. This was obsession. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans did exactly this. They carried fire from place to place. They protected it. They fed it wood like it was the most precious animal in their care. Groups of humans probably died in conflict over access to fire sources. Some evidence suggests that early human settlements positioned themselves near natural fire sources for this exact reason. But then something shifted. Around 400,000 years ago, maybe earlier, evidence is murky. Humans figured something out. They could make fire themselves, and this is where domestication actually happened. Here's the thing about animals. They domesticate themselves through a process called self-selection. Humans breed them, but the animals do most of the adaptation. Dogs domesticated themselves by hanging around human settlements eating scraps. The genetics changed. The temperament changed. It was passive, almost. The animal adapted to humans. Fire was the opposite. Humans had to completely transform their understanding of chemistry, friction, and combustion. They had to develop techniques. They had to experiment with different materials, different types of wood, dried grass, certain rocks. They had to understand that force plus friction plus the right kindling equals fire. This required abstract thinking. This required scientific method. Millions of years before science was even a concept. Early fire-making techniques were brutal. Hand drills took 30 minutes or more. Bow drills were faster but required immense skill and practice. Flint and steel came later. Every technique demanded precision, knowledge, and patience. You couldn't domesticate fire through genetics or passive behavior. You had to domesticate it through pure intellect. And unlike a dog, fire never became safer. Fire never became more predictable. Every time you made fire, you were still controlling something fundamentally wild. Burns were common. Homes burned down. Entire settlements were lost. Fire was never tame. Humans just became skilled enough to live alongside danger. This is what separates humans from every other animal on Earth. We didn't domesticate fire because it was domesticable. We domesticated it because we were capable of something no other creature could do. We could learn the rules of a system we didn't create and then exploit those rules for survival. When we tamed a horse, the horse changed. When we tamed fire, we changed. We developed better hands, better brains, better organization. Cooking food in fire made our brains bigger. The social structure around tending fire made us better at cooperation. The knowledge required to make fire made us smarter. Here's the darkest part of this story. Once humans figured out how to make fire, we started using it as a weapon. We used fire to clear forests. We used fire to control other animals through fear. Archaeological evidence shows that fire was used deliberately to hunt large game. We'd set grasslands ablaze and drive herds of animals to their deaths. Fire became our first tool of mass destruction, and maybe that's the real difference. Animals couldn't do that. An animal that tried to use fire that way would burn itself out. But humans, we were willing to play with fire in ways that defied common sense. We were willing to risk catastrophe for advancement. We were willing to control something that could destroy us because we believed we could stay one step ahead. 2 million years of evolution, hundreds of thousands of years of carrying fire we didn't make, tens of thousands more of figuring out how to create it, and it all led to this, a species that could stare at the ultimate chaos and say, "That's ours now." No other animal ever tried, no other animal ever succeeded, and no other animal is still playing with fire today.